Do you struggle putting words to what is going on in the body? Do your clients ever wonder what it means to hold space for another? In today's podcast, physical therapist Heather Hannam discusses how to develop the ability to be present for a client and provides the language to express it. Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Meaningful Conversations with the Birth Healing Summit podcast. I am super excited to have back with us again Heather Hannam. Heather is a physical therapist out in Oregon City, Oregon, and she's been a therapist for over 45 years. She's a mom to 4, a grandma to 7. She's also an instructor at Healing the Pelvic Core at Esalen with Suzanne Skurlock. Welcome back to the podcast, Heather. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a delight, as usual.
Well, we always have great conversations. And in part 1, we talked a lot about how we can help our clients feel more that we are on their page by reviewing what we did in the first session, or going back to what their complaints were when they first came in and reading our notes and helping them to realize that we're trying to get it right and letting them have the opportunity to correct anything that we may have misunderstood with them. So I absolutely love that. And then we also got into self-efficacy for our clients. We ended that one with asking our clients if the doctor won't give you referral to physical therapy. You said, please write down in my notes that I requested physical therapy and you denied me. And I love that. So
that's a little stronger, but yeah, that they said no.
Yeah.
But deny will work.
Denied, yes. So what else? So Heather has so much to share with us, and I'm just so excited for all these golden nuggets. I really hope that you are, taking them and putting them into practice. So what are we going to be talking about today, Heather?
Well, I'm going to start with some behavior modification, self-awareness for clients, little things that you can have them be aware of to extend the efficacy of our own, of our practice and the manual therapies that we've done. I remind them, you're with me an hour a week and you're with you 24/7. And you can easily undo what I'm encouraging you to do. And so to be mindful, we're working a lot on mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I tell them, who better to take care of you? The bottom line is, if we don't take care of ourselves, nobody else will.
Absolutely.
So I'm blunt in that regard.
Well,
because that's the truth. I mean, I think it's a truth. It's a truth.
Yeah. And we only have one body, and we've got to figure out how to take care of it. And
yes,
I keep saying I'm so grateful that I became a physical therapist, because it has saved me thousands of dollars in care over the years, right? Because
I know. I also tell, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go. Just even the understanding pain, like I was in your last episode, you were talking about, working with chronic pain patients. And I think just from my understanding of the body and healing and pain, I don't know if I have a very high threshold for pain or if I just understand pain more, so
yeah, I think that's a good observation. I know personally, I prided myself on a very high pain tolerance. I would allow myself to be drilled teeth with no Novocaine.
Oh, I'm not that.
Well, I did. And then I did a lot of personal work and my pain threshold plummeted. I think I now have an average pain, and I don't like it any better than anybody else, but it's no longer a badge of honor. And I will say, numb me up, Scotty. Yes. Ain't numb enough.
Okay, so Heather, do you mind me diving into that?
No, go ahead.
What was that about?
Well, I think we had all the abuses at my home, and we learned to suck it up. You just
Ah,
put up with it.
yeah,
It's part of life. My dad was always right. Um, and I think it became, I felt alone in my life. I didn't feel the advocacy because he was so oppressive. And
yeah,
I think that was part of, um, the Hannam women don't do that kind of thing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so once I was able to acknowledge my own personal feelings, the griefs, the sadnesses,
yeah.
um, and grieve them. And, we cry on our own, we grieve with a witness. There's a huge difference.
Oh,
Um, and being able to love those parts of me that I didn't because I didn't like 60% of me. It's an awful lot not to like, but
yeah.
I managed not to like 60% of me. So that as I learned to love myself and take care of myself, I think I have a very normal pain tolerance.
Okay, that amazing, and I just absolutely adore you for your self-awareness. And I want to jump back, if you don't mind, because this is hitting me personally right now. The comment that you said about grieving in witness,
Hmm.
say that
Yeah.
again.
We cry on our own. We grieve with a witness. Grief requires a witness, is what I was taught.
Hmm,
And so part of that is being vulnerable enough to share your sadness, remorse,
yeah,
pain with someone else. And I will say at the beginning, I had a lot of shame around
uh-huh,
crying
yeah,
about grieving. I always felt like there was a part of me, it was around being vulnerable. And I,
absolutely. That's
and
exactly where I'm thinking about that. Crying with someone is a vulnerable state.
right. And yet, and so my visual was I am stark naked and both my hands and feet are tied. That's what vulnerable meant to me. And
Wow.
then I had it reframed for me. Vulnerability means nothing to defend.
Ooh. Oh my goodness. Wait a
That I
minute.
could,
Say that again. Say that again.
vulnerability means nothing to defend. I can just tell my truth,
Yes. Yes. And it's okay.
and it's okay. Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna have to sit with that whole grief thing because I'm currently in a grief process. My aunt is just got put on hospice, and I just got the call today that she's, I her phone's being turned off, that she's no longer communicative.
Oh, she's in her
Mhm.
transition process.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it has brought up a lot of grief for me. And I have to say that there's been a lot of tears on my own,
Hmm.
but I have been more open to just crying to my team, to my friends, and just letting that out more, that I haven't really done in the past more. So I think there's some growth going on in me.
Yeah, good. Looks good on you.
Right. Thank
You know,
you.
they say the longest 12 inches in the human body is from the head to the heart. And we
Mhm.
can often describe stuff up here, but we kind of close, just like women traditionally, close off their pelvis. We've all had, I think we've all had women who talk about down there. They can't
Yeah.
even say words, but
Yeah.
we often close ourselves off from our heart.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so a soft heart is a sign of strength. We were taught tough, be hard,
Yeah.
think like a man. I said, Dad, I have tried to
Mm.
think like a man my whole life. I'm not.
Right.
It has helped, it has served me down the line when I
Yeah.
work with men clients because there's part of me that knows how to think like a man. But I mean, for me personally, I couldn't even say the word feminine. I called it feminine
Mhm.
because it didn't apply to me because my dad wanted us to be stoic little men and not
Um,
children. We weren't allowed to disobey. I mean, there's a
yeah.
stoicism. Instead of letting us learn the consequence, you just didn't disobey. And I towed the line because I
Mm.
watched what happened to my older brothers and sisters. I did not want that.
Right.
So I towed
Yeah.
the line and sucked it in and
Yeah. And like you said earlier, a badge of honor.
Yes,
You
that good
know,
old badge of honor. Gave
yeah.
that up for Lent one year.
Yeah.
I I just give that up for Lent. Don't pick it back up.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Who knew that we were going here? Because these are, while these might not be nuggets from the field part two, these are actually really good personal nuggets.
Yeah, and I'm open to share because people were kind enough to do that for me.
Yeah,
That's how I learned to do it.
right. Yeah. And it's so important for us to learn how to be vulnerable, to learn how to allow our emotions to flow, to honor them, to recognize them, to honor and recognize the pain.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest piece for us as therapists and also for our clients to really honor and recognize the pain that we're
Hmm.
dealing with. It's not a badge of honor. It's
No, and
signal.
yeah, it is. One of the things I didn't learn, but I started with, and I didn't know to do with my own children, but I did with my grandchildren, is I gave them an emotional language. And I
Mm,
simplified it. And I offer this with my clients, within similar wording, but where in your body do you feel that?
mm,
And this is certainly complemented. I was doing this before I got Suzanne Skerlack's work, but her work is excellent in fleshing this out as well.
yeah,
Where in your body do you feel that? Is it mad, sad, glad, or afraid? Those are the big four, right? Especially
mm,
for children, keep it simple. And for adults who don't know all the nuances, that's still mad, sad, glad, or afraid. And it's easy enough to remember.
yeah,
Um, what number is it? 0 to 10. And is there a color associated with it? So I taught my grandchildren, and we talked about the joy having, it was a 7 and it was in my heart and it was sparkles and stars, or my grandson said it's brown and it's in my heel. And I took it. I absolutely took whatever he told me. I wanted to give him an emotional language so he could say,
yeah,
Grand, it's a 7 and it hurts right here.
yeah,
And it's a sad, so that we could sit and be present with it. And as we talked about in one of our earlier podcasts, the more comfortable we are sitting in our own pain and discomforts,
yeah,
the more easily we can do it for others. And when you tell me where it's hurting or where you're noticing that, and I personally drop into my own personal space at that place, it can facilitate a session in a huge way. So if I drop into my left pelvic floor, if I drop into my right ischial tuberosity, if I can drop into my gut or diaphragm or into my heart and open big, then that I'm the biggest pendulum in the room. And I think we
uh,
know about that study.
yeah. Suzanne shared that in her
Yes,
podcast or in her summit interview that
right, right,
all the pendulums, they were starting at different times and they weren't synchronized,
correct,
and then they all became synchronized with the
right.
biggest pendulum in the room.
And
That's
it's right. And it's not that we want to be the leader. It's not, but at a level it is. For me, it is if I am present in my own body, then that affords the best safety and boundary to my clients.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
so, in that regard, that personal work affords me that.
Well, and Heather, I love how you say, if we can help guide our client to find it in their room or in their body, and then we go there ourselves in our own body.
Yes,
It's not about us trying to
correct,
take it on
correct,
from them.
correct.
It's just about meeting them where they're at in our
Yes,
own body
yes.
without really doing anything other than opening ourselves up to it. Describe that process a little bit more.
Um, well, I'll give you an example. So I do distance healing from the core. And
Mhm.
I was working with a Finnish, sorry, who are Belgium? Who are they?
Belgiums.
Belgiums.
Yeah.
She's a physical therapist, and we were doing internal work. We said, let's try some internal work from a distance. And she was so funny because she said, I'm putting on my energy gloves, even though she's thousands of miles away.
Right. Okay. So wait a minute. We're going to have some people hearing this going, what are you talking
What?
about? Right. So let's back up a little bit and
Okay.
let's kind of give them a little bit more insight into what you're talking about here with distant healing.
Well, I'll give you this elevator pitch. We're all energy. We are more energy and space
Yeah.
than matter. That's physics. It's quantum physics. You know, we're 99.9999969% space. And we have
Yeah.
these little electrons spinning around in that space. We're more energy than we are matter. And just
Okay,
like
that's important for everybody to just like
sit with,
let that sink in a little bit. We are more energy
than
than
we are
matter.
matter. Yeah. So when they talk about mind over matter, you know, we think we're hard, and
Right.
sometimes, but in reality, we're more space than we are. And the example that I was given is our cells are like the state of Utah, and you put a RV, sorry, a VW van in the middle. That's your nucleus. And then you put marbles that are spinning around the periphery of the state of Utah. That's a molecule and an atom, or that's an atom. That's mostly space. And we're
Right.
made up of atoms, molecules,
Yeah.
tissue, you know.
Yeah.
So so we're mostly energy. And like a radio station, we emit energy, and we can, with training, and I got to tell you, Suzanne's work is excellent. You can learn to pick up the energy of other people, even from a distance.
And I would bet to say that there are some people who do that effortlessly
Yes,
without realizing
knowing.
it.
Right. I would agree. I would agree.
So for those of you listening into this going, huh, it's those subtle feelings you get inside your body when you're around someone or in an environment,
Right.
or it's that it's the sense you have.
Right.
That's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yes, and it's coherent waves of energy that we align to. Like I'm thinking about grandma, or I'm thinking about Suzanne, and all of a sudden she calls me. You know, it's all that synchronicity, quantum field. It's
Yeah.
real. And I would say to people who are listening to this going, there is no way. Anytime we have knee-jerk reaction, that's about us. That's belief systems. Because I would have told you 20 years ago, this would too woo-woo for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's pretty dang real. And if you're intrigued by the idea, or that's true, then you're already stepped into it.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. Heather, let's talk about this just a little bit, because I grew up in a Catholic church, Catholic family, going to church. Mom was a nurse, and so very steeped into traditional medicine.
Mhm,
And it really wasn't until I moved away from my family, got on my own, started doing more of the craniosacral, visceral manipulation kind of courses when you and I met,
mhm.
that my path really started to open me up to these different ideas. And it's so fun. It's so fun.
It is fun. It is fun. And if you're attracted to it, do it. If you're not attracted, don't worry about it.
Right.
Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. You don't have to do this.
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
Yeah.
But
Perfect.
so
Important.
yeah.
Thank
So I'm going to circle back around then.
you.
I'm doing we're doing work from a distance. She's in Belgium, I'm here in Oregon City. And because of the way we've been taught, I can feel her presence. All right?
Okay.
And she says to me, I'm going to put on my energy glove. I thought that was really sweet of her to put on her. And for what it's worth, they call it vaginal touche, vaginal touch. And I went, that won't work so good in the United States because touche is like touche,
Yeah.
So she calls it touche. I call it, you know, gentle internal work. But okay, I digress.
Yeah.
So when she came in, it turned out she came in rectally this time. But because she held presence in herself, I could, for the first time ever, I said, oh my gosh, I can feel my coccyx is bent forward. It's to the right, towards that right ischial tuberosity. This is part of the work in the last 4 months that had led me to clearing that left hip pain out of the way. And I could feel the tightness in the anterior right PC muscle, pubococcygeus, and I could feel the tension on the left posterior PC muscle.
And all this is from that incident that you talked about in part one of this?
Who knows? All I know
Yes.
is
Okay.
in the moment
Yeah.
today, because she held such ground and personal presence, it was like she allowed me to look inside myself, and I
Wow.
could feel that. I'd never felt that before. Tom would say, yeah, we have to do some coccyx work, but he never said it's tilted to the
Yeah.
right or, but I could feel that in my own body
Wow.
because she held such presence for her own pelvic floor. So that is extreme. She's in Belgium and I'm here. So if you and I are in the same room together and I happen to have a finger vaginally,
Yeah.
and there's a part of me, it's the both and. It's not like I can only pay attention to my finger, but at the same time, I can pay attention to my own pelvis and just note, am I there? Yes, I am. Am I breathing? Yes, I am. Can I still feel here? Yes, I can. So that's a whole nother concept. It's like if I'm holding these two things together, this is green, this is red. This is green, this is red. Now I can see they're both there at the same time. Now I can focus on the green. The red's here. I haven't left it, but I'm focusing on the green so that I can have a finger intravaginally, but still have a monitor on my own internal state. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
It's the both and. It's not either or. And most of us grew up with either or. It's the both and. And for many will say it's the many and, not just the
Mhm.
both and. So
Yeah.
that it's possible to have done your own work, to be able to hold presence for myself and at the same time hold presence for you.
Yeah.
And there's part of the magic of the healing. It's not
Mhm.
magic. It's not magic, but it sure feels that way.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah. I just, I just want those listening into us going, oh my gosh, that is way too woo for me.
I hear you.
Right? And I do too. And yet Heather and I started off very physical, very mechanical in our
Yes.
approach to the body. And as our knowledge grew and our awareness grew and our work in our own bodies grew, we realized there's more. There's more to, like Heather was saying, our body is more space than matter. And I just want to plant the seed for those listening that when you are addressing the body from that physical level and things aren't changing, that's when you might want to get curious with it and see what else might want to happen. Instead
Mhm.
of trying to get more forceful or more intentional with what you want to have happen to that
Yes.
tissue or structure, maybe back off and see what information that tissue or structure wants to give you.
Absolutely. I have found myself like in, and I have to go, oh, back off. Now, sometimes I keep the depth but lose the pressure. you
Yes.
know so
Yeah.
there's that piece. But when I find myself like in, I have to go, back off, get in my feet, get it,
Yes.
get more present for myself. And the other thing that I found fascinating is when clients go, "Oh, I can feel that way up here." And I'll say, "Could you put a hand there?"
Mm.
So that they become a third treating hand, or maybe
Oh,
it's my other hand, or because sometimes I'll do, I'll hold the sacrum or the ischial tuberosities and I'll be in vaginally. My hands are taken up in the moment, so
right,
they
right.
can be a third hand. But the other thing you can learn to do is I can make my finger as long as I need. And I can go in and they're way up under the diaphragm and I'll go, okay, I'm gonna they don't necessarily know that, but that's what I'm thinking is like, I'm
Sure.
just going to send my energy towards that. And they'll say, that's it. That's it. I can feel that and make that connection.
Right.
And I can make my hand. Well, I'm not going to teach Suzanne's class. It is worth it. That's what I can tell you. It is worth it.
Well,
Um,
that is that piece. I'm actually adding it to my advanced online course. Just the treating regionally, locally, and then distantly, if that's a word, at a distance, like,
mhm,
so everything's connected. However, we can connect into it to help connect the dots
right.
is the treatment. That's what we want to do. Like, we can focus in on the area that we're treating that is tight, but then check and see what's going on around that, and then what might be connected to that farther up the chain or down the
Yes.
chain.
Yes. And if you've
Right?
got both your hands down here, I can send an energy hand up to the
Yeah.
OA,
It,
to the masseter. I can send my awareness, and again, holding all three
yeah.
to make that connection. And then often out of their mouth comes out the story
Right.
of how they didn't get to call out, or they screamed and nobody showed up, or part of the
Yeah.
accident or part of the birth where they felt that they were shut down, they didn't get,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah. And I will sometimes I'll have my client put their hand in that area,
Yes,
right? Or
absolutely.
or just, okay, let's breathe into the back of your neck on the
Yes.
left side. Like,
Right.
let's both intend our attention to that
Right.
area. Susan Clinton said it in one of her interviews when I did one of her podcasts, or her Birth Healing Summit interviews. Intention is the shortest distance between 2 points.
And that's energy. That is
Exactly.
thought. That is
Okay.
thought.
Okay, but here's the thing. I think that there's a huge issue in the physical therapy world around this idea of energy.
I know. I know if it's not manual therapy, you certainly can't bill for it. You can't bill for distance therapy. So if you maybe bill out of pocket, they pay out of pocket. And I had my hand slapped years ago, like that's too woo woo. You can't, you're physical therapist, you're not mental therapists.
Right,
And so there are times we walk a fine line between being a listener, acknowledging it. But I always say, do you have a counselor? You need to have a counselor
right,
who is doing the work with us. It'll come up here. I said, I have enough background to hold it, to hold the
right,
container of it, so that you can feel safe. And then you take it to your counselor. But I'm also willing, if they're in the moment of it, I have enough background to sit with it and to
right,
acknowledge it without trying to change it. Again,
right.
sometimes these women, they just need a witness.
Absolutely. And to and for all of us doing this kind of work, especially the intravaginal work, I really encourage all of us to have the skills to be okay to sit with it.
Yes.
Right? It's so important because stuff's going to come up. And the more you can be okay sitting with our clients, so, creating space, holding space for them, allowing them to just be present with whatever is coming up and not freaking out ourselves, the more you're going to be able to help your clients to shift whatever they are holding in their body, in their tissues.
Exactly. And I think as the better we get at this, I mean, there are times when all of a sudden I spin out, my head, I'm thinking I'm out here and I have to go, back in my body.
Yep. Yeah.
And then I know my next step. If I'm, oh my God,
Mhm.
what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
The best thing I know is like, I'm in my head. I
Yeah.
got to trust these. I got to trust my gut. I got to trust my heart. I got to trust my inner knowing. I got
Yes.
to trust the stability that I can be for my client. And that takes personal work. You don't just go, oh, I hope I've got that. You have to practice it and hone it.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that makes for a much better session and people feel safe enough.
Absolutely. And they leave feeling different.
They do.
They
They do.
really do. And I think personally, that's where the joy is for me. It's helping someone to feel the difference in their body, to feel and to be able to let go of whatever they've been holding on in their body that they might not have known until we put our hands on them in that one space or one place in their body where they're
Right. And it's
and
good to know that, it's like not every session is huge and woo woo. A lot of, as I did on my video with the SI, that's a bulk of a treatment. And then I teach them, how do you maintain this? That's very in your head,
mechanical.
kinesthetically. It's manual therapies. I'm
Yeah.
not getting woo woo on them.
Yeah.
I'm giving them ways to, can you feel the difference between here and there? Can you look and see how well you can move?
Yeah.
Wow, something is different. Now your job is to keep it. My job is to help you get it. Your job is to keep it. That has nothing to do with emotional. And it may be weeks, it may be months before someone feels um, it bubbles up or they feel they can mention it. Um,
Right.
so it's not like this has to take over your practice, that you have
I
to be
think
some sort of
just
woo. I'm
it's just
very
right.
practical.
Right, I am too, and
Manual therapy.
right? In the Facebook Live, that we had, the second Facebook
I
Live,
know I missed that. I'm so sorry. I heard it was so good.
it was so juicy. It was so juicy, but, one of the comments that I made in that was that, I start everything physical. When I'm working with my clients, it's
Yes.
all physical. And it's when the tissues won't release, when they won't let go, then I get curious and I dive in and see what needs to happen. And I stay curious and
Hmm.
help them to get curious with that area. And it is about becoming comfortable just dialoguing with your client and asking good questions.
Hmm. It's in the question. That's what one of my spiritual teachers said. It's always in the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love Access Consciousness talks about living in the question.
Ooh.
How can it get any better than this?
I like that a lot. How
Right?
can
When you're
I
in the
how can it
muck
be better than that?
and everything is going wrong, believe me, I could say that right now. It's been a hell of a week. How can it get any better than this? Where does your consciousness go when you say that question?
Mm.
Totally raise you out of it.
Hmm.
Instead of staying in the muck and staying and just swimming in the negativity, you're
Right.
asking you're lifting yourself out of it and asking, how can it get any better than this? I just love that question, you know.
Yeah, I remember a time when I was up against a wall. I was working with a counselor. There's this wall in front of me. It's 10 feet high and it goes as far as I can do. And I said, Mary, there's this big wall. And I said, I can't see any doors. And she said, okay, what if you were on the other side of the wall? And I went, oh. And suddenly I was on the other side of the wall. I mean, it was that, it was that fast. Now I had, it's amazing when we ask those kind of like, oh, it hadn't even occurred to me how
Exactly.
quickly you can shift.
Absolutely. And that's where, for me, it's accessing my own intuition. Like Mary accessed her intuition to get that question to pop in.
Yes. Yes.
And that's where, for me, that greater connection to spirit, to source, to God, whatever you want to call it, my angels, my guides,
Hmm.
having them be there with me as I'm working on these my clients so that I can get that guidance. I can hear those inputs of what needs to be said, what needs to happen here. It's just it takes the pressure off of me,
Yeah, I
right?
would agree. I would agree. And I would like to just again affirm people who they're looking at this going, I don't know. If you see therapists, I don't care whether it's Lynn or me or anybody else, if you see therapists and they're doing good work and you recognize that, it's in you.
Yes.
It's in you. And so nurture it. Take the classes. Stay curious. Because if it wasn't in you, you wouldn't have it, you wouldn't be attracted to it, you wouldn't be curious about it, you wouldn't go, isn't that interesting? I don't know how they do that, but isn't that interesting? So I've always known that. And it can be not only a skill set, but it could be a character, compassion, curiosity, boldness, whatever character, positive character, spiritual quality that you see in other people, honey, it's in you.
Yes.
You wouldn't.
Anything you see in someone else is within you, because you can't see it in someone else unless it is within you.
Exactly, exactly. So I call encouragement to one another. Lynn and I can't walk your walk for you,
No.
but we can sure call encouragement to you.
Yes. And if a little inkling of what Heather and I have shared or you've listened to in this podcast tweaks your interest, go for it. We give you permission to explore it, to get curious, to see, just be open to where you get guided next. And know that we are all guided if we just stay open to seeing. One of my clients calls it the hand of God. The hand of God just guiding her. It is such a beautiful, beautiful way to live, and especially to practice. Because to me, it's not about me when I'm in that session, right? It's totally about the client on the table and what needs to happen for them. I am there to serve and just be a guide, to just help them in whatever capacity I can in that moment.
I would agree.
And it's so beautiful and it's so fun, the work.
It is. It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Heather, this was totally not where this conversation was going to go, was it?
Not at all.
Love it. So we're going to have to do another interview later, everybody.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, because Heather has more nuggets from the field that she would like to share that we didn't get to in this episode. So I think what we did cover, though, was absolutely special.
Thank you.
So wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Heather, for being so open to sharing your journey, sharing, your the badge of honor with pain, because that's what took us down this road initially.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening in. And again, as we said, if this sparked an inkling of interest in you, please go explore it, discover it, look for it, do more with it. All right. And I'm here at the Institute for Birth Healing to help you with my courses on how to do this. Healing from the Core, Suzanne Skurlock has also wonderful classes to help you explore this more. So whatever feels most intriguing for you, follow that path, follow your heart. And here, thank you, Heather, for this time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And here is to more beautiful births and faster recovers. Take care, everybody. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.